My parents refused to buy me $20 acne cream while spending thousands on alcohol and Vegas trips, so I put their money in a medical trust. That was 2 months ago. Mother just got arrested for camping outside my Google office with a bullhorn screaming about her canceled Botox appointment. My family and I lived in poverty growing up. I went to public school, and lots of times eating a warm meal felt special. My parents always left me home when they went to restaurants, saying it cost too much money to bring me along with them. I would never get presents like all my other friends on Christmas or any other holidays. The only exception was that on my birthday, we would be able to go out to either McDonald's or Chipotle. This led me to not have much of a social life, because whenever my friends wanted to go out, they went to expensive activities. And back then, I would envy their go-karting arcade Instagram posts. Or whenever they would want to hang out, it could never be at my tiny place because I was embarrassed at them seeing the place I call home. I honestly started to resent my parents so much for this, but it was probably the sole cause of my later success in life. During my second year of high school, I would frequently eat lunches in the bathroom stalls because no one would let me sit with them, and I always tried to sit in the farthest back chairs in class. And at home, I had an abundance of time on my hands to spend doing my weird geeky hobbies like coding. I was pretty used to this lifestyle and got pretty content with it. Sure, occasionally I did want to yell at my dad for using the little money he made on alcohol, but over time I started caring less and less. That's until during the start of my third year in high school where a new boy entered our school. He was an exchange student from France. He was tall and very handsome with blonde hair. He didn't speak much English, so he was assigned a person to help guide him around the school. That person was me, considering I was the only student in the school that took my French classes seriously, and at first it felt like it was paying off. I showed him around, but he immediately got attention from the other girls. However, he showed no interest in them and would make witty comments in French to me about them. Over the next couple of weeks, we became really close friends, and I was building up the courage to go and ask him out. But something crazy happened. Instead of me asking him out, he asked me out. I was so shocked because I had never received this kind of attention from anyone, not even my family. I was so excited that I immediately jumped at his offer to go on a date. He told me to dress nice because we were going somewhere fancy. We ended up going to McDonald's. Even though he was in a suit and I was in my nicest clothes, it was a hilarious experience and it felt like a dream. But this is where everything started to go downhill. I wish we weren't in such a cruel world where people found bullying fun, because the next couple of days, a lot of the girls came and started asking me questions like, "How did you end up with the hot boy?" Or, "Doesn't he comment on your bad looks or acne?" I just sat there frozen, unable to answer their multiple rude and condescending questions. Eventually, after a little while of them bullying me, I just sat there quietly until they left. That night, I went home and asked my parents for acne cream. It was the only thing I had asked from them in years, and yet my mom especially just flat out refused because my dad needed the money to buy alcohol. I couldn't believe it. That whole night, I was in my room crying, and my insecurity definitely reflected at school. My boyfriend started making comments about how I always looked sad now, and that I was always keeping my head down. But the things those girls said stuck with me, and maybe they were right. I didn't deserve my boyfriend. I became very isolated, and I stopped talking to everyone altogether. Eventually, the boy that stole my heart with just one McDonald's date had moved on. This got me back onto my usual regime of just spending all my time coding and in my room. Eventually, I started reaching out to big tech companies because I wanted to get out of the terrible life I had here. I got an internship at one of the biggest tech companies, Google. I climbed the ranks to a point where I was essentially making a 7-digit salary. During this period of time, I kept very low contact with my parents until they heard about the work I'm doing and started asking me to help pitch in with their rent. And then from there, the requests just kept on piling on. It got to a point where I had bought them a 3-story luxurious house and even bought them a Ferrari. I kept on supplying them because currently I was making a lot. But that's when my mother asked me for the unthinkable. She told me that she wanted a Botox and facelift surgery. I reminded them of how they refused to pay for my acne cream and didn't help me fix my face. So I certainly wasn't going to help her fix her face, which was now filled with wrinkles. I told them how she cost one of the best relationships I had ever had, and now I would refuse to indulge in her beauty expenses. My parents are now calling me a selfish brat that never even cared about them, but they weren't expecting what I would do next. I scheduled an appointment with Dr. Martinez, a therapist my colleague had recommended. My hands shook as I filled out the intake forms in her waiting room. The questions about family relationships made my stomach churn. I checked boxes mechanically, trying not to think too hard about each answer. Dr. Martinez called me in, and I sat on her leather couch, picking at my manicured nails. She asked me to start from the beginning, so I told her about the surgery request. Her pen moved across her notepad as I spoke, but her eyes stayed on mine. "Tell me about your childhood," she said when I finished. The memories came flooding back. I described the restaurant trips my parents took without me, the birthday McDonald's visits that were my only treats, the coding projects that filled my lonely hours. My voice cracked when I mentioned the acne cream incident. "And how did that make you feel?" Dr. Martinez asked. I opened my mouth to answer, but my phone buzzed. Mother again. This time, a text with a link to a plastic surgeon's website. The procedure costs were itemized. $35,000 for the facelift, $15,000 for the Botox and fillers. She'd added a note, "This is the doctor all my friends use. Very reputable." I showed Dr. Martinez the message. She leaned forward slightly. "What do you notice about this request?" she asked. I stared at the numbers. $50,000 for cosmetic surgery, when $20 for acne medication had been too much. The session ended with homework. Write down every financial request my parents had made since I'd gotten the Google job. That night, I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, creating a spreadsheet. The numbers added up quickly. Rent assistance that turned into a house purchase. Car repairs that became a Ferrari. Grocery money that morphed into restaurant gift cards. My phone rang. "Dad, your mother's crying." he slurred. The familiar sound of ice clinking in a glass came through the speaker. After everything we sacrificed for you, this is how you repay us? I hung up. The next morning, I woke to 17 missed calls and a Facebook notification. Mother had tagged me in a post. Some children forget where they came from. We gave up everything for our daughter, and now she won't even help with necessary medical procedures. Aging is hard enough without ungrateful children. My aunt had already commented, Linda, you're such a good mother. She should be ashamed. I screenshot the post and sent it to Dr. Martinez, asking if we could move up our next appointment. During lunch at work, I got another call, this time from my cousin Gabrielle. Sarah, I saw your mom's post, she said. Look, I need to tell you something. When we were kids, my mom used to lend your parents money. They always had some excuse about being broke, but then we'd see them at the casino the next week. My hand tightened on my phone. What? Yeah. And remember when you had that school trip to Washington, D.C. that you couldn't go on? Your parents told everyone they couldn't afford it, but that same month they went to Vegas for their anniversary. After we hung up, I sat in my office staring at my dual monitors. Lines of code blurred as tears formed in my eyes. All those years of wearing the same clothes until they fell apart. All those nights going to bed hungry because we'd run out of grocery money. All those school events I'd missed because of costs. That evening, I called my parents. Mother answered on the first ring. Finally coming to your senses? She said. I'll meet you for dinner tomorrow, I said. Pick the restaurant. She chose Le Bernardin, one of the most expensive restaurants in the city. Of course she did. I arrived early and waited at the bar, nursing a glass of water. They walked in 20 minutes late. Mother wearing a new designer dress I recognized from Nordstrom's window display. Dad's face was flushed, probably from pre-dinner drinks. We sat at a corner table. Mother immediately started talking about the surgery, pulling out printed pages from the surgeon's website. Other diners glanced our way as her voice carried. I've already scheduled the consultation, she said. They can do everything in one session. Isn't that wonderful? And since you're paying, I upgraded to the premium package. I set down my water glass carefully. I'm not paying. The silence stretched between us. Dad's face darkened. What do you mean you're not paying? Mother's voice rose. You spend that much on your car payments. Actually, I don't, I said. I bought my Tesla outright, but that's not the point. Then what is the point? She leaned back, crossing her arms. That you're too selfish to help your own mother? I gave birth to you. I raised you. You raised me? The words came out sharper than I intended. Several nearby tables turned to look. You left me home alone while you went to restaurants. You denied me basic medical care. You made me feel like a burden for existing. We were poor, Dad interjected, his words slightly slurred. Were you? I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots Gabrielle had sent me. Old Facebook posts from their Vegas trips, casino check-ins, photos at restaurants. Because it seems like you had money for everything except me. Mother's face went pale, then red. She stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. How dare you? She shouted. The entire restaurant was watching now. After everything we sacrificed for you, we went without so you could have a future. And this is how you repay us? By humiliating us? I stood too, my legs surprisingly steady. You went without taking me to restaurants. I went without medication that cost less than Dad's beer. We are not the same. You owe us! Mother's voice cracked. We're your parents. You owe us everything. I owe you nothing. I picked up my purse. I've already given you more than you ever gave me. The house, the car, the monthly allowances. It stops now. I walked out, leaving them with the check. My phone exploded with messages on the drive home. Extended family members, old family friends, people I hadn't heard from in years. Mother had started a campaign, calling everyone, posting on Facebook, sending emails about her cruel daughter who abandoned her parents. I turned off my phone and drove to my therapist's office. Dr. Martinez had agreed to see me for an emergency session. I did it, I said, collapsing onto her couch. I told them no, in public, at Le Bernardin. She handed me tissues I didn't realize I needed. How do you feel? Guilty, relieved, angry, free. I wiped my eyes. Is it normal to feel everything at once? It's normal for someone breaking free from a lifetime of manipulation, she said. We talked for the full hour about boundaries, about the difference between helping and enabling, about how love shouldn't come with a price tag. She helped me see that my success hadn't created my parents' entitlement. It had only revealed it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I found myself at my computer, not coding, but searching. On a whim, I looked up my old high school on Facebook. There he was in a group photo from an alumni event, Antoine Dubois. He looked the same, just older, more refined. I closed the laptop and went to bed. The next few days were a blur of family drama. My aunt called me selfish. My uncle said I'd regret this when my parents were gone. Cousins I barely knew weighed in with their opinions. But Gabrielle and two other cousins, Nathaniel and Victoria, reached out with support. I'm proud of you, Victoria texted. They did the same thing to my mom for years. Nathaniel shared his own story about lending them money that was never repaid. Gabrielle sent screenshots of old conversations where my parents had badmouthed me to relatives while simultaneously asking for loans in my name. A week after the restaurant incident, I made a decision. I called my lawyer. I want to set up a trust, I said, for my parents' medical expenses. Actual medical expenses. Nothing cosmetic, nothing elective unless it's genuinely necessary for health. I want strict oversight and requiring documentation for every disbursement. We spent 3 hours going over the details. The trust would cover Medicare gaps, prescription medications, necessary procedures. It would pay for a modest apartment if they lost the house I'd bought them. But no cash disbursements, no luxury items, no cosmetic procedures. I had the papers drawn up and sent to my parents via certified mail. Mother called immediately. A trust? You're treating us like children. I'm treating you like people who've proven they can't be trusted with money, I said. This is that therapist, isn't she? Mother's voice was venomous. filling your head with lies, turning you against us. No, Mother, this is me finally seeing clearly. She hung up. That evening, I sat in my home office looking out at the city lights. My laptop was open to LinkedIn, Antoine's profile on the screen. He worked for a tech company in Paris now. His job title suggested he'd done well for himself. My cursor hovered over the message button. What would I even say? Hey, remember me? The girl who pushed you away because of her insecurities? I closed the laptop and went to make dinner. 2 weeks passed. The family drama continued on Facebook, but I'd blocked most of the participants. My parents hadn't signed the trust documents. They were holding out, probably hoping I'd cave. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, I got a LinkedIn notification. Antoine Dubois had viewed my profile. My heart raced as I clicked over to LinkedIn. There was a message waiting. Sarah, is this really you? I heard about what happened with your parents from a mutual friend. I hope you're okay. I stared at the message for a full 5 minutes before typing back. Hi, Antoine. Yes, it's me. I'm processing everything. How did you hear? His response came quickly. Sebastian from our French class. He saw your mother's posts. I'm sorry you're going through this. We messaged back and forth for an hour. He told me about his job, his life in Paris. I told him about Google, carefully avoiding the family drama. Then he wrote something that made me stop breathing. I need to tell you something. When you pulled away in high school, I thought I'd done something wrong. It took me years to realize it wasn't about me. My fingers hesitated over the keyboard. Finally, I typed the truth. Those girls said I didn't deserve you. My parents refused to help with my acne. I believed I was too ugly, too poor, too everything. Sarah, I never cared about any of that. You were brilliant and funny and kind. The acne was just acne. Tears blurred my vision. All those years of carrying that shame, that self-hatred, and he'd never even noticed what I thought was my fatal flaw. I'm sorry, I typed, for pushing you away, for not explaining. We were kids, he replied. We did the best we could with what we knew. I was about to respond when my phone rang. Dr. Martinez's office, confirming tomorrow's appointment. After I hung up, I looked back at Antoine's messages. Another had come through. I have a conference in San Francisco next month. Would you like to get coffee? Or maybe McDonald's for old time's sake? I stared at his message, my fingers hovering over the keyboard. McDonald's, the place where everything began and ended. Before I could respond, my office door burst open. Sarah, we need you in the conference room. Emergency meeting about the new security protocol. My manager looked frazzled. I quickly typed, yes, I'd love that to Antoine and rushed to the meeting. For the next 3 hours, I buried myself in code reviews and system architecture discussions, but my mind kept drifting to that upcoming coffee date. When I finally returned to my office, my phone showed 23 missed calls, all from Mother. My stomach dropped as I listened to the first voicemail. Sarah, your father's in the hospital. Heart palpitations. The stress you've caused. If something happens to him, it's on you. I grabbed my keys and drove to Stanford Medical Center, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Despite everything, the thought of Dad being seriously ill made my chest tight. I found them in the cardiac unit waiting room. Mother's eyes were red-rimmed, but when she saw me, her expression hardened. Finally decided to show up, she said loudly enough for other families to hear. Dad was sitting up in bed when I entered his room, looking more annoyed than ill. The heart monitor showed steady rhythms. The doctor says it's stress-related, he said, not meeting my eyes. My blood pressure's been high since you cut us off. I sat in the visitor's chair, studying his face. Color was good, no signs of distress. The familiar smell of alcohol lingered despite the hospital setting. What did the tests show? I asked. Elevated blood pressure. They want to keep me overnight for observation. He finally looked at me. Your mother's surgery consultation is next week. She's been so upset about your selfishness that she can barely sleep. The manipulation was so transparent it almost made me laugh. Almost. Instead, I stood up. I'm glad you're okay, Dad. Let me know if the tests show anything serious. Mother followed me into the hallway. That's it? You're just leaving? Your father could die. The doctor said it's stress-related high blood pressure, not a heart attack, I said calmly. Maybe if he cut back on the drinking. Don't you dare blame this on him. Her voice echoed off the hospital walls. This is your fault. All that money you're hoarding while we suffer. A nurse approached us. Ma'am, I need to ask you to keep your voice down. This is a cardiac unit. Mother glared at her, then at me. Fine, but don't come crying to me when he's gone and you have to live with the guilt. I left the hospital feeling drained. Back home, I found myself scrolling through old photos on my laptop. There were so few from my childhood. Most were school pictures, my forced smile not quite reaching my eyes. Then I found one from sophomore year, a group photo from French class. Antoine was in the back row, and I was 2 people away, looking at him instead of the camera. My phone buzzed. A text from Gabrielle. Saw your mom's latest Facebook post about your dad being hospitalized because of your cruelty. Just FYI, my mom saw them at the casino last Tuesday. He seemed fine then. I screenshot the message and added it to my growing folder of evidence. Not for any legal purpose, just for my own sanity when the guilt crept in. The next morning, I woke to find a GoFundMe link circulating on Facebook. Mother had created a fundraiser for Dad's emergency medical expenses and Linda's necessary surgery. The description painted me as a heartless daughter who abandoned her parents in their time of need despite having millions. The goal was set at $75,000. My phone rang. Dr. Martinez. I don't usually call patients between sessions, she said, but a colleague showed me your mother's fundraiser. How are you handling this? I'm not sure, I admitted. Part of me wants to expose all their lies, show everyone the receipts, the casino photos, everything, but that feels petty. What would exposing them accomplish? She asked. I thought about it. Maybe people would stop judging me, stop believing I'm this horrible daughter. And is their opinion worth your peace of mind? After we hung up, I sat with that question. Did I really care what distant relatives and family friends thought? Or was I still that teenager desperate for approval, eating lunch in bathroom stalls? My work suffered that week. I missed a deadline for the first time in 3 years. My manager pulled me aside. Sarah, is everything okay? This isn't like you. I gave him a vague explanation about family issues. He nodded sympathetically and gave me the rest of the day off. Instead of going home, I drove to the beach. I sat on the sand, watching the waves, and let myself cry for the first time since the restaurant confrontation. My phone buzzed. Antoine had sent another message. I've been thinking about our conversation. I want you to know something. That day at McDonald's wasn't a joke to me. I chose it because you'd mentioned it was special to you. I wanted our first date to be somewhere that made you happy. The tears came harder. All these years, I'd remembered it as him making the best of my poverty, when really he'd been trying to give me something meaningful. That evening, I called Nathaniel. He'd mentioned having similar experiences with our parents. How do you deal with the guilt? I asked. He sighed. Therapy. Lots of therapy. And reminding myself that helping isn't the same as enabling. They're adults who made choices. Those choices have consequences. Dad's in the hospital, I said. I saw Mom's post. Is it serious? High blood pressure. Stress-related, supposedly. Nathaniel snorted. Let me guess. The stress of you not funding their lifestyle anymore? Pretty much. Sarah, you know this is what they do, right? Remember when I stopped lending them money? Suddenly Dad developed that mysterious back pain that required expensive treatments. Pain that miraculously disappeared when I held firm. After we talked, I felt marginally better. I wasn't alone in this. Other family members had been through it and survived. The next few days brought an escalation in Mother's campaign. The GoFundMe gained traction, raising over $5,000 from sympathetic strangers and distant relatives. She posted daily updates about Dad's condition, each more dramatic than the last. According to Facebook, he was practically at death's door. According to Gabrielle's mother, who worked at the hospital, he'd been discharged after one night with a prescription for blood pressure medication and a recommendation to reduce alcohol intake. I threw myself into work, coding until my eyes burned. It was easier than thinking about the mess my life had become. My team was developing a new security feature, and I volunteered for extra hours just to keep busy. Then Victoria called with news that made my blood run cold. Sarah, I thought you should know. Your mom's been calling around asking for your address. She told my mom she wants to have a conversation with you in person. I'd been careful about my privacy, using a P.O. box for most things and keeping my actual address off social media. But Mother was resourceful when she wanted something. Thanks for the warning, I said. That night, I installed a security camera at my front door and alerted building security about potential unwanted visitors. It felt extreme, but something in Mother's escalating behavior worried me. The worry proved justified 3 days later. I was working from home when the doorbell rang repeatedly. The security camera showed Mother and 2 women I didn't recognize. Sarah, I know you're in there. Open this door right now. Mother's voice carried through the door. We need to talk about your father. He's getting worse. I didn't respond. She kept ringing the bell, then started pounding on the door. You can't hide forever. What kind of daughter ignores her sick father? The neighbors should know what kind of person lives here. Building security arrived within minutes, asking them to leave. Mother made a scene, of course, loud enough for half the floor to hear. I watched through the camera as security escorted them out, Mother shouting about ungrateful children and elder abuse. My hands shook as I called Dr. Martinez for an emergency session. She came to my home, I said, pacing her office. She's never done that before. It feels like she's escalating. Boundary extinction burst, Dr. Martinez said. When someone is used to getting their way and suddenly faces firm boundaries, they often escalate their behavior before accepting the new reality. How long does it last? It varies. The important thing is to maintain your boundaries consistently. Any wavering reinforces the escalation. That evening, I found a letter slipped under my door. Mother must have convinced someone to let her back into the building. Sarah, it read, your father's condition is deteriorating. The doctors say the stress is affecting his heart. I'm scheduling my surgery for next month. I've decided to use our retirement savings since you've abandoned us. I hope you can live with yourself when we're destitute and your father is dead. You were always selfish, even as a child. We gave you everything, and this is how you repay us. Don't bother coming to the funeral when your selfishness kills him. I photographed the letter and filed it with the rest. The manipulation was so heavy-handed it would have been funny if it didn't hurt so much. My phone rang. An unknown number with a local area code. Is this Sarah? An unfamiliar female voice. I'm calling from Stanford Medical. Your father's been admitted again. My heart skipped. Is he okay? He's stable. He asked us to call you. He's in room 4B if you'd like to visit. I debated for 20 minutes before driving to the hospital. This time, I found Dad alone. He looked smaller in the hospital bed, older. The alcohol flush was gone, replaced by genuine pallor. Hi, Dad. He turned toward me, and I saw tears in his eyes. In all my 29 years, I'd never seen him cry. Sarah, you came. I sat down cautiously. What happened? Blood pressure spiked again. They think. He paused, seeming to struggle with the words. They found some liver damage from the drinking. The room felt suddenly airless. How bad? Early stages, reversible if I stop drinking. But Sarah, his voice broke. I can't afford the treatment program they're recommending. Your mother doesn't know yet. I haven't told her. I stared at him, processing. Was this real or another manipulation? The tears seemed genuine, but I'd been fooled before. The trust I set up covers necessary medical treatment, I said carefully. His face crumpled. I know I haven't been a good father. I know we hurt you, but I'm scared, Sarah. I don't want to die. I left the hospital with my thoughts churning. I called Gabrielle from the parking lot. He seemed genuinely scared, I told her. But I can't tell if it's real or just another tactic. Can you verify with the doctors? Medical privacy laws. He'd have to give permission. Then ask him to. If it's real, he'll agree. If it's manipulation, he'll make excuses. The next morning, I returned to the hospital with forms for medical information release. Dad signed them without hesitation, his hands shaking slightly. I want to get better, he said. I've wasted so much time, so much money. Your mother, she doesn't understand. She thinks I can just cut back. Dr. Patterson, his hepatologist, confirmed the diagnosis: early-stage cirrhosis, treatable with immediate cessation of alcohol and proper medical support. The recommended treatment program was expensive but covered under the trust's medical provisions. I authorized the payment that afternoon. Mother called within hours, screaming about me controlling their medical decisions, infantilizing them with the trust. I let her rant, then hung up. The family Facebook drama exploded. Mother posted about how I was keeping Dad from getting proper treatment by controlling their money. The irony of her complaining while I was actively paying for his treatment wasn't lost on me. Then came a post that made me see red. Some children wait until it's too late to help their parents. My husband is fighting for his life while our daughter counts her millions. I'm canceling my surgery consultation to focus on him. His health is more important than my appearance, unlike our daughter's priorities. The comments poured in, praising her selflessness, condemning my cruelty. One caught my eye, from someone named Lee who donated to the GoFundMe. This is heartbreaking. No parent should have to choose between their health and their spouses. Sarah, if you're reading this, shame on you. I closed Facebook and opened my coding environment. For 3 hours, I lost myself in algorithms and data structures, finding peace in problems that had clear solutions. My phone buzzed. Antoine again. I saw the posts. Your cousin Sebastian showed me. I'm sorry you're dealing with this. Family shouldn't be this hard. It's getting worse. I typed back. I'm paying for my dad's treatment, but my mom's spinning it as me withholding help. I don't know how to make it stop. You can't control her narrative. You can only control your actions. And from what I see, you're doing the right thing. Am I? Sometimes I feel like the villain in my own story. The villain wouldn't be paying for medical treatment. The villain wouldn't have spent years supporting parents who neglected her. You're not the villain, Sarah. You're just tired of being the victim. His words hit deep. I stared at the screen, unable to respond for several minutes. Thank you, I finally typed. I needed to hear that. 3 weeks until San Francisco. I'm looking forward to seeing who you've become. That night, I couldn't code, couldn't focus on anything. I found myself going through old photos again, this time from college. I looked happier there, freed from high school's social pressures. But even then, there was something held back in my smile. Some part of me still believing I wasn't enough. My doorbell rang at 10 p.m. The security camera showed Victoria. Sorry for dropping by so late, she said when I let her in, but I thought you should hear this in person. She sat on my couch looking uncomfortable. Your mom came to my mother's house today. She was unhinged, Sarah, talking about suing you for elder abuse, for emotional distress. My mom tried to calm her down, but she just kept escalating. Suing me? I laughed bitterly. With what lawyer? With what money? That's the thing. She mentioned the GoFundMe, said she'd raised enough to fight back against your cruelty. Sarah, I think she's planning something. After Victoria left, I called my lawyer. He assured me that Mother had no case, but recommended documenting everything. I spent the rest of the night organizing emails, texts, voicemails, creating a timeline of events. At 3 a.m., I gave up on sleep and went for a run. The streets were empty, quiet. I ran until my lungs burned, trying to outpace the feeling that my life was spiraling out of control. When I got home, there was an email from Mother. The subject line, final warning. Sarah, this is your last chance to do the right thing. Your father starts treatment tomorrow, but they won't let me stay with him because we can't afford a hotel. You forced us to drain our savings for his care while you sit in your luxury apartment. I've consulted with a lawyer about elder abuse and financial exploitation. You convinced your father to sign papers while he was vulnerable and hospitalized. That's coercion. Drop this trust nonsense and give us access to our rightful support, or I'll have no choice but to protect ourselves legally. You have 48 hours. I forwarded it to my lawyer, then took a screenshot from my file. The threat was empty. I knew that. The trust was legally sound, created while they were healthy and competent. But the accusation of exploitation stung. Was I exploiting their vulnerability by maintaining boundaries? Dr. Martinez addressed this in our next session. She's reversing victim and offender, she explained. It's a common tactic in manipulative relationships. The person who sets boundaries becomes the abuser in their narrative. But what if she actually files something? Even a baseless lawsuit could affect my job, my reputation. Has your lawyer expressed concern? Number, he says she has no standing. Then this is anxiety speaking, not reality. Let's work on differentiating between actual threats and emotional manipulation. Dad started his treatment program the next day. I received updates from the facility. He was cooperating, attending sessions, showing commitment to recovery. It was more than I'd hoped for. Mother, meanwhile, escalated her social media campaign. Daily posts about their suffering, their abandonment, their cruel daughter who controlled their lives. The GoFundMe continued to grow, now over $15,000. Then Nathaniel called with disturbing news. Sarah, I just heard from cousin Lee on mom's side. Your mother's been calling extended family, asking for loans. She's telling them you've cut them off completely and they're about to be homeless. But I bought them a house. I know, but she's saying you're going to take it back, that the trust is a scheme to control them. Lee actually gave her $5,000. I felt sick. Not only was she manipulating strangers online, but she was also scamming our own family. What should I do? Document it. That's fraud, Sarah. She's taking money under false pretenses. But the thought of pursuing legal action against my own mother made me feel hollow. How had it come to this? The next week passed in a blur of work and worry. Dad's treatment updates were positive. He was engaging with therapy, his liver enzymes were improving, but Mother's campaign continued unabated. She'd started posting old photos of me as a child, always with captions about how she'd sacrificed everything for an ungrateful daughter. One photo stopped me cold. It was my 8th birthday, the one time we'd gone to McDonald's. I was smiling over a happy meal, but now I could see what I'd missed then. My parents in the background, Dad with a beer despite it being barely noon, Mother on her phone, neither looking at me. Antoine messaged that evening. 2 weeks now. Are you still up for coffee? Yes. I typed, then added, fair warning, my life is a disaster right now. Life is messy. That's what makes it interesting. Besides, I remember a girl who could find humor in anything, even a fancy date at McDonald's. I smiled despite everything. That girl might be a little buried under corporate success and family drama. Then maybe it's time to dig her out. The day before Dad was scheduled to complete his initial treatment, I got a call from the facility. He wanted to see me. I found him in the common area, looking clearer than he had in years. The bloat was gone, his eyes focused. Sarah, he said, standing to hug me. I couldn't remember the last time he'd hugged me. We sat in plastic chairs overlooking a small garden. I need to tell you something, he began. About the money. About your childhood. I waited. We weren't as poor as we said. I mean, we weren't rich, but there was money. Disability payments, like your cousin said. Tax refunds. My uncle left me a small inheritance when you were 10. He stared at his hands. I drank it. Gambled some. Your mother. She had her own vices. Shopping mostly. Keeping up appearances with her friends. Why tell me now? Because I'm tired of lies. The counselor here, she says accountability is part of recovery. He looked at me then. Really looked at me. We failed you, Sarah. Not because we were poor, but because we were selfish. And we're still being selfish. Dad, your mother doesn't know I'm telling you this. She still believes our version of events. Or maybe she's convinced herself it's true. But you deserved better. You deserved parents who put you first. I left the facility feeling raw, exposed. The admission I'd waited years to hear didn't bring the satisfaction I'd expected. Just sadness for the childhood that could have been. That night, I video called Victoria and Gabrielle. We'd grown closer through this ordeal, bonded by shared experiences with our parents. He admitted it. I told them. All of it. The money they had, the choices they made. How do you feel? Gabrielle asked. Empty, validated, angry, all of it at once. That's normal, Victoria said. When my dad finally admitted his gambling problem, I thought I'd feel vindicated. Instead, I just felt sad for all the time we'd lost. We talked for hours, sharing stories, finding dark humor in our dysfunctional family. It helped, knowing I wasn't alone. The next morning brought a new crisis. Mother had been evicted from the house I'd bought them. Not by me, by the HOA for violating multiple community guidelines. Apparently, she'd been running some kind of business out of the garage, and the neighbors had complained about the constant traffic. She called me screaming about homelessness, about abandonment, about elderly abuse. I reminded her that the trust would cover a modest apartment. Modest? She shrieked. I'm not living in some cheap apartment like common trash. Then I guess you'll need to figure out alternative arrangements. She hung up on me. Within hours, the Facebook posts started. Photos of her packing, captions about being thrown out on the street by her heartless daughter. The GoFundMe goal increased to $100,000 for emergency housing and legal fees. My phone rang. The facility. Dad was being discharged and needed somewhere to go. He can't go back to your mother, the counselor said. Not if he wants to maintain sobriety. Is there anywhere else? I made a decision that surprised me. He can stay in my guest room, temporarily, while he figures things out. Dad moved in that afternoon with one suitcase and a garbage bag of belongings. He looked around my apartment with something like awe. This is nice, he said quietly. You did good, Sarah. Thanks. Your mother's going to lose it when she finds out, probably. He sat on the couch, looking small and lost. I don't know how to live without her, even with everything. 40 years is a long time. You'll figure it out, I said, hoping it was true. That evening, while Dad attended an AA meeting, I finally responded to Antoine's latest message. Coffee sounds perfect, but I should warn you. My dad's currently living in my guest room. My mother's trying to sue me, and I'm apparently the villain of the family narrative. Sounds like you need that coffee more than ever. Besides, I have my own family drama to share. We can compare notes. I found myself actually looking forward to it. A normal conversation with someone who knew me before all this mess. Mother discovered Dad's location within 2 days. She showed up at my building, but security turned her away. The resulting Facebook Live video went viral in our extended family network. Her crying outside my mansion. It was a nice building, but hardly a mansion. Begging to see her husband, painting me as the destroyer of marriages. You turned him against me, she screamed at the camera. 37 years of marriage and you poisoned him against me. What kind of daughter destroys her parents' marriage? The comments were split this time. Some supported her, but others began questioning the narrative. One cousin pointed out that if I was so evil, why was I paying for Dad's treatment? Dr. Martinez helped me process the guilt in our next session. You didn't destroy their marriage, she said firmly. Their choices did that. You simply stopped enabling those choices. But if I hadn't set boundaries, then your father would still be drinking himself to death while your mother spent money they didn't have. Is that a better outcome? Dad, meanwhile, was thriving. He attended meetings daily, got a part-time job at a hardware store, and started cooking, something I'd never seen him do. We developed an odd but comfortable routine. He cooked dinner, I handled the dishes. We watched TV together but didn't talk much. It was more companionship than we'd had my entire childhood. One evening, he surprised me. I've been thinking about that boy, the French one. I looked up from my laptop. Antoine, I remember when you were dating him. You smiled more. Then suddenly you didn't, and we never asked why. I did ask, for help with my skin. Mom said no. He winced. I remember. I'm sorry, Sarah, for so many things. He messaged me recently. We're having coffee next week. Dad smiled. A real smile, not the alcohol fuzzy grins I remembered. Good. You deserve to smile again. The week before Antoine's visit passed quickly. Work was intense. We were launching the new security feature, and bugs kept cropping up. I welcomed the distraction from family drama. Mother's harassment continued but became background noise. Daily emails about her suffering, voicemails about Dad's betrayal, Facebook posts painting increasingly dramatic pictures of her situation. The GoFundMe stalled at $23,000. Apparently, even sympathy had limits. Then, 3 days before Antoine was due to arrive, everything exploded. I woke to 57 missed calls and hundreds of text messages. My social media had blown up overnight. Mother had gone nuclear. She'd created a website, The Truth About Sarah Davis. It included cherry-picked texts, edited emails, and photos spanning years, all painting me as a calculated calculating, cruel daughter who'd planned to abandon her parents from childhood. She'd included my work information, my LinkedIn, even my building address. But what made my blood run cold was the final section. Antoine Dubois, the boy she threw away. She'd somehow found our old high school photos, his current information, and created a narrative about how I'd used and discarded him just like I was doing to my parents. My hands shook as I called my lawyer. This had crossed a line from family drama to potential defamation and harassment. We can send a cease and desist, he said. But Sarah, this might be enough for a restraining order. The website, the repeated attempts to access your home, the documentation of her escalating behavior. She's my mother, I said weakly. She's also someone who's actively trying to destroy your life. Family doesn't make harassment acceptable. I sat with that for a moment. Then, do it. The cease and desist. If she doesn't stop, we'll consider the restraining order. After hanging up, I found Dad in the kitchen, staring at his phone. I saw the website, he said quietly. Sarah, I had no idea she was capable of this. He trailed off, looking lost. It's who she's always been, I said. We just couldn't see it before. No, he said firmly. I saw it. I just chose the bottle instead of protecting you. That's on me. I called in sick to work and spent the day doing damage control. My manager had already seen the website. Mother had emailed it to my entire team. He assured me it wouldn't affect my position, but I could see the concern in his eyes. Then came the text I'd been dreading. From Antoine. I saw the website. Are you okay? Do you want to postpone coffee? I stared at his message, shame washing over me. Mother had dragged him into this mess, exposed our teenage relationship to the world, and twisted it into something ugly. I'm so sorry, I typed. I understand if you want to cancel. This isn't your drama to deal with. His response came immediately. Sarah, I asked you for coffee, not your mother. I'll see you Thursday unless you want to cancel. Are you sure? I've dealt with worse. Besides, now I'm curious about this villain version of you. Does she come with a cape? Despite everything, I laughed. It felt foreign, but good. No cape. Just apparently a cold, calculating heart and a master plan to destroy everyone who loves me. Sounds efficient. We can discuss your evil schemes over coffee. The cease and desist was delivered the next day. Mother's response was predictable. More Facebook posts about legal intimidation, silencing a mother's truth, and protecting her abuser daughter. But the website came down within 24 hours. Dr. Martinez helped me prepare for Antoine's visit. This is someone who knew you before all the success, before the family drama. How does that feel? Terrifying, I admitted. What if he sees that I haven't really changed, that I'm still that insecure girl who pushed him away? What if he sees that you've grown, that you're setting boundaries and standing up for yourself in ways that teenage girl never could? The night before our coffee date, I couldn't concentrate on anything. Dad noticed my nervousness. You're pacing, he observed from the couch. Sorry, I'll go to my room. No, it's familiar. You used to pace before school presentations. Your mother would yell at you to stop, said you were making her anxious. He paused. I should have told her to leave you alone. Kids are allowed to be nervous. I stopped pacing, struck by the observation. Such a small thing, but part of a pattern I was only now recognizing. Thanks, Dad. He nodded and returned to his AA book. We were still figuring out how to be father and daughter without mother as a buffer, but moments like this gave me hope. That night, I lay in bed thinking about the next day. Coffee with Antoine. Such a simple thing, but it felt monumental. A connection to who I was before the success, before the family explosion, before I built walls so high even I couldn't see over them. My phone buzzed. One last message from Antoine. Looking forward to tomorrow. And Sarah, that girl who was brave enough to show a confused French kid around school, she's still in there. See you soon. I fell asleep holding onto those words, hoping they were true. The morning of the coffee date, I woke at 5 a.m. with my stomach in knots. Dad was already in the kitchen making coffee. Couldn't sleep either? He asked. I shook my head and accepted the mug he offered. We stood at the counter in comfortable silence until he spoke again. I've been thinking about what to do next. Found a sober living facility that takes insurance. Figure I should give you your space back. You don't have to rush, I said, surprised to find I meant it. I know, but I need to learn to stand on my own feet. Can't hide from your mother forever. My phone buzzed. A text from Mother. I know he's there. A wife always knows. You've stolen my husband and destroyed my life. I hope you're happy. I showed Dad the message. He sighed deeply. 40 years, he said. 40 years of this, and I never saw it clearly until now. I left for work early, needing the distraction. My team was in the final stages of the security launch, and I buried myself in debugging code, but concentration was impossible. Every few minutes, I checked the time, calculating how many hours until I'd see Antoine. At lunch, Victoria called. Just wanted to check in before your coffee date. How are you feeling? Like I might throw up. I admitted. That's normal. Remember? He reached out to you. He saw that disaster of a website and still wants to meet. That says something. After we hung up, I tried to focus on work again, but my manager noticed my distraction. Sarah, why don't you take the afternoon off? You've been putting in crazy hours lately. I gratefully accepted and went home to change clothes. I tried on 6 different outfits before settling on jeans and a simple blouse. Nothing too formal, nothing too casual, just normal. Dad was reading in the living room when I emerged. You look nice, he said, like yourself. Thanks. I grabbed my keys, then paused. Dad, what if he sees I haven't really changed? What if I'm still just that insecure girl? He set down his book. You bought your parents a house. You stood up to your mother in a fancy restaurant. You're paying for my treatment even after everything we did. That's not the same girl who hid in bathroom stalls. I arrived at the coffee shop 15 minutes early and chose a corner table where I could see the door. My hands shook as I sipped water and watched people come and go. Then, at exactly 2 p.m., Antoine walked in. He looked almost the same. Older, yes, but still with that easy confidence that had drawn me to him in high school. When he spotted me, his face broke into a warm smile. Sarah, he said, sitting across from me. It's really good to see you. You too, I managed, my voice steadier than I felt. We ordered coffee, just regular coffee, nothing fancy, and for a moment neither of us spoke. Then he leaned forward slightly. So, should we address the elephant in the room? Your mother's creative writing project? I nearly choked on my coffee. You mean her masterpiece of fiction? I particularly enjoyed the part where you apparently plan to abandon your parents from age 6. Very forward-thinking for a first grader. The tension broke, and I found myself laughing, really laughing, for the first time in weeks. We spent the next hour talking about everything except my family drama. He told me about his work in Paris, developing sustainable technology. I told him about my projects at Google. It felt surprisingly normal, like the years had compressed and we were just two nerds talking about code. Then his expression grew serious. Can I ask you something? When you pulled away in high school, I always wondered, was it something I did? I set down my cup carefully. It was never you. Some girls said I didn't deserve you. They made comments about my appearance, my acne, and when I asked my parents for help with medication, they said no. I believed I was too ugly, too poor, too everything for someone like you. He was quiet for a moment. I need to tell you something. That McDonald's date? I spent hours planning it. You'd mentioned it was the only place your parents took you for birthdays, that it was special. I wanted our first date to be somewhere that made you happy, not somewhere that made you feel less than. My eyes burned with unshed tears. All these years, I'd remembered it wrong. I'm sorry, I said, for pushing you away, for not explaining. We were 17, he said gently. 17-year-olds aren't known for their communication skills. My phone buzzed. Mother again. I glanced at it and quickly turned it face down, but not before Antoine noticed. Still escalating? Always. She's moved on to telling people I've kidnapped my father. How's he doing? I found myself telling him about Dad's recovery, his admission about their finances, his decision to find sober living. Antoine listened without judgment, occasionally asking questions. It sounds like he's trying, he said finally. Yeah, it's complicated. 40 years of damage doesn't just disappear. No, he agreed, but the fact that he's trying counts for something. We talked for another hour, the conversation flowing easily. He showed me photos from his travels, his work projects. I told him about the trust I'd set up, the boundaries I was learning to maintain. Dr. Martinez, my therapist, says I'm breaking generational patterns, I said. Some days it feels like breaking myself instead. Growth usually does, he said. But look at what you've accomplished. Not just professionally, but personally. Setting boundaries with toxic people is harder than any code you'll ever write. As we prepared to leave, he hesitated. I'm in town for another week. Would you like to have dinner? Somewhere other than McDonald's this time? I'd like that, I said, meaning it. We exchanged numbers, real ones this time, not through LinkedIn. And I walked back to my car feeling lighter than I had in months. When I got home, Dad was cooking dinner. The apartment smelled like garlic and herbs. How did it go? He asked, not looking up from the stove. Good. Really good, actually. I'm glad. He paused, stirring the sauce. Your mother called while you were out. The building wouldn't let her up. What did she want? Same as always. For me to come home, for you to stop controlling me, for things to go back to how they were. He turned to face me. I told her no. First time I've ever done that. How did she take it? About as well as you'd expect. But Sarah, it felt good. Scary, but good. We ate dinner together, talking about his plans for sober living, my upcoming work deadlines. It was the most normal evening we'd ever shared. The next morning brought a new crisis. Mother had started a blog, A Mother's Heartbreak, daily updates on parental alienation. The first post was a dramatic retelling of Dad's kidnapping, complete with staged photos of her crying over their wedding album. I screenshot it and sent it to my lawyer, who responded quickly, keep documenting. This is actually helping our case if we need that restraining order. At work, I threw myself into the security launch, grateful for the distraction. My team was supportive, professionally ignoring the elephant in the room of my mother's very public campaign against me. That evening, Antoine texted about dinner plans. We settled on a small Italian place, nothing too fancy. I found myself looking forward to it with an anticipation I hadn't felt in years. Dad noticed my improved mood. It's nice to see you smile, he said over breakfast. Really smile, not the work smile you do. I didn't know you could tell the difference. I'm sober now. I notice things. He paused. I noticed things before too, just chose to ignore them. I'm sorry for that. The apologies were becoming frequent, and I wasn't sure how to handle them. Dr. Martinez had warned me about this stage of recovery, the overwhelming guilt that often accompanied clarity. 2 days later, Dad moved into the sober living facility. I helped him carry his few belongings to his new room, a small but clean space he'd share with another man in recovery. You sure you're ready for this? I asked. No, he admitted, but I need to try. Can't keep hiding from reality. As I drove home, I felt a mix of relief and worry. The apartment felt empty without him, but also peaceful. For the first time in weeks, I had my space back. That night was my dinner with Antoine. I arrived to find him already there, looking relaxed in jeans and a button-down shirt. You look happy, he said as I sat down. My dad moved into sober living today. It's a big step. For both of you, he observed. Dinner was easy, comfortable. We talked about technology, travel, books we'd read. He told me about his failed relationships. I told him about my workaholic tendencies. It felt honest, real in a way my teenage self could never have managed. Can I ask you something? I said as we shared dessert. Why did you really reach out? After seeing that website, most people would have run. He considered this. Because I remembered the girl who helped me navigate American high school, who laughed at my terrible English jokes, who was brilliant and kind and had no idea how special she was. He paused. And because I've learned that the best people often come from the hardest circumstances. My phone buzzed. Another text from Mother. This time I didn't even look. You can check it, Antoine said. I understand complicated families. No, I said firmly. I'm done letting her interrupt my life. He smiled. Good for you. After dinner, we walked through the city, talking about everything and nothing. When we reached my car, he hesitated. I'd like to see you again before I leave, if you want. I want, I said simply. The next few days passed in a blur of work and cautious happiness. The security launch went smoothly, my team celebrating with champagne I couldn't quite bring myself to enjoy. Mother's campaign continued online, but it felt distant now, like noise from another room. Dad called from the facility, sounding clearer each time. He was attending meetings, making friends, even starting to talk about finding his own apartment eventually. "Your mother showed up here yesterday," he told me during one call. "Made a scene in the parking lot. They had to call the police. Are you okay?" "Yeah," it was. Illuminating, seeing her behavior from the outside. How did I not see it for 40 years? "Love makes us blind sometimes," I said, surprising myself with the compassion in my voice. Antoine and I met twice more before his conference ended. Once for lunch near my office, once for a walk through Golden Gate Park. Each time felt easier, more natural. "I have a confession," he said during our park walk. "I looked you up years ago, when Facebook first became popular, but you had such strict privacy settings, I couldn't see anything. Self-preservation," I admitted. "I didn't want people from high school finding me. I understand, but I'm glad we found each other now." On his last night in town, we had dinner at a rooftop restaurant with views of the bay. The conversation turned more serious. "What happens now?" I asked. "You live in Paris. I live here." "I don't know," he said honestly, "but I'd like to find out, if you're willing." "I'm willing," I said, "but I need you to know, my life is complicated right now. My mother isn't going to stop her campaign anytime soon. My dad's in recovery. I'm in therapy working through decades of issues." "Sarah," he said gently, "I'm not looking for perfect. I'm looking for real. And this is real." The next morning, I drove him to the airport. We kissed goodbye at the departure gate, a soft, sweet kiss that felt like a beginning rather than an ending. "I'll call you when I land," he promised. "I'll answer," I promised back. Driving home, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Hope, fear, excitement, worry, all tangled together. My phone rang through the car speakers. Dr. Martinez confirming our next appointment. Back at my apartment, I found a letter slipped under my door. Dad's handwriting. "Sarah," it read. "I wanted to put this in writing. Thank you for saving my life. Not just with the treatment, but with your boundaries. Seeing you stand up to us showed me what self-respect looks like. I'm proud of who you've become, not because of your success, but because of your strength. Love, Dad." I sat on my couch holding the letter and cried. Not the desperate tears of recent weeks, but something cleaner, cathartic. My phone buzzed. A text from Antoine. "Boarding now. Already planning my next trip to San Francisco. Thank you for taking a chance on us again." I smiled, wiping my eyes. Outside my window, the city sparkled in the afternoon sun. Somewhere across town, Mother was probably drafting her next blog post. Dad was attending a meeting. My cousins were living their own complicated lives. But in this moment, in my quiet apartment, I felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Possibility. The future stretched ahead, uncertain but no longer terrifying. I had boundaries now. Support. The beginning of something with Antoine that might become beautiful. I opened my laptop and started coding, losing myself in the familiar rhythm of problem solving. My phone sat silent beside me, no longer a source of dread but just a tool. The security feature launched successfully. My team's messages filling our Slack channel with celebration emojis. That evening, Antoine called as promised, his voice warm across the ocean distance. We talked for an hour about nothing important. His flight, my work, plans for video calls, normal things, healthy things. After we hung up, I sat in the gathering dusk, thinking about the girl who used to eat lunch in bathroom stalls. She felt like a stranger now, but also like someone I needed to honor. Her pain had shaped me, but it no longer defined me. My laptop dinged with an email. Work-related, nothing urgent. I closed it and stood, stretching. Tomorrow there would be more drama, more messages from Mother, more sessions with Dr. Martinez. The work of healing was far from over. But tonight I made myself dinner in my peaceful kitchen. I texted with Victoria and Gabrielle, sharing memes and support. I looked at apartments near Dad's facility, thinking about his next steps. And when Antoine texted goodnight from Paris, with a photo of the Eiffel Tower lit up against the night sky, I smiled. A real smile, not the practiced one I'd perfected over years of hiding. Some wounds, I realized, touching my clear skin in the bathroom mirror, really could heal. It just took time, boundaries, and the courage to stop letting people reopen them. The girl in the mirror looked tired but hopeful. She looked like someone who was learning, finally, to choose herself. My phone buzzed one last time. Mother, of course. This time I didn't even read it. I silenced the phone and went to bed, falling asleep to the sound of the city outside my window and the quiet promise of tomorrow.